Hey, hey, what's going on? This is Sunshine.
And that is E right there. What's up, YouTube? We're back with Storytime. Almost fell out my chair. Y'all didn't see that, did you?
Yeah. This is Storytime, aka E Shine, because this kind of shows and shines a little bit more about who we are, what we, what kind of how we think, and what kind of people we are, So that's kind of part of this we're doing. So a lot of it is asking questions, putting out scenarios, so we can.
Y'all can join in on some of it,
Y'all can suggest some things, and we'll do them to kind of figure out exactly. We just really don't give out like Social Security numbers.
We don't send 1099
stuff like that. We don't really get into. But the other stuff we can kind of talk and ask or whatever, and
we're trying to build up also on that. Cut you off. We're trying to build up also. We want to do some live and get your ideas on what do you all want to talk about when we start doing lives. I know we talked about that in the past, but we haven't really created our platform on what you guys really, really want.
Right.
And trying to get some suggestions there. Suggestions there.
We're going to do some stuff. We're going to take it to the street, too. We're going to do a lot of things, a lot of interesting things. But right now, we're going to get into our story time. And this, what are we going to talk about today? Did you?
We're going to go down two different roads, patterns. It's all in really kind of same line.
Right.
One would be, what era? Is that the one we're doing?
Yeah.
What era would you, as an individual, we're going to tell you what ours are, or what we think we might want. What era would you choose to live in? And those are broken down as prehistoric time, biblical time, or present day. So I'm going to pass this over to E to start off.
For me, it's going to be real easy if those are selections, because I really didn't know what the selections were going to be. You kind of broke that down now. And it's easy for me because it's going to be modern day, only because there's when you say modern day, when you said biblical was prehistoric, to me, it just miss out on, it's just like it groups right now with, 1950, 1930, it's because it's just, and so there's a certain eras I would want to live as in my prime years, I would want to live more in a different decade than I may be living now. You know what I mean? So if I had to choose those, I wouldn't really want if I didn't know what I know now, then I could probably do that. But knowing how I feel now is like, man, I think about biblical times, I think about how they lived, but that particular struggle, some of the things I enjoy doing now, I could do none of that. And then, especially when you talk about dinosaurs and things then you get, it's another little thing to it. So for me, it would automatically be, without a question, not even close, modern day.
Present day.
Day or whatever.
I agree with you on that as far as knowing what I know now. But if you were back in those days, you wouldn't know this time.
Right, exactly.
Mine I pick is biblical. I would love to do prehistoric just to see what it was like. I don't want to stay there, but just kind of curious.
Yeah.
Because even in biblical times, they said that we were pretty much giants as a person.
Right.
We became tall, and I guess as time passed on, we shrunk. But I just
right.
I would pick biblical for the reason that I think during that time, I don't know, that era, that people are a lot more humble, in a sense, from what we can see back then. So, and I feel that I'm a humble person, and I think I would fit in that era. I just believe.
It's funny when you say that, when humble, not necessarily funny, but it's just kind of when you put it in perspective, when you say humble. If you take today, and you ask people, where would you think in America would be the most down to earth, humble people, good hearted people? The majority, when you do it, it would break it down to being what probably the smaller cities, not the big New Yorks, LA's, Chicago's. It'd be the smaller cities, because usually there's a little less things to do. So I think it was easy to be humble in the biblical days, a lot more humble than you are now, because there was less temptation, less things to do, less things to get into. So it was easier because most of your day was trying to get through the next day. It wasn't like, you didn't, I think people was like saving up for cruises, biblical times.
Right.
They didn't know that, but I'm just saying it was easier to be humble because there was less things to be able to do. And I think the family is a lot closer simply because you had to kind of depend on each other.
On each other.
Which now,
nowadays.
Because right now, I mean, very rarely right now, if you go back 50 years, 60, 70 years ago, most people was born and they lived in the same place and died in the same place. Everything was right. Very people.
But it was all what you knew.
Yeah.
So,
but
another reason I would select that because health-wise, I mean, even though there was no modern medicine, people healed from the land. Their eating was different. Everything was just. It was grains and rice and, it seemed like people were healthier in a sense from what we hear or what we've heard. So, I mean, I just captivate all of that, and that's how I kind of thought that's where I would want to be.
But see, that's weird.
You ate of the land, whereas now we're not. We're going to a store and we're buying something and we don't know where that food really came from or where it stemmed from. We have no idea, but back then you knew exactly what you were eating.
That's just my personal belief, and I guess when you think biblically, it really doesn't go into the depth that we may want to gain that understanding. But I think when you was mentioning about being giants and being big people, I think what went along with it is the kind of body we had. We were a lot more fit and more. I just think that the body was at the higher level, because I know they said, and this was years ago, and I don't know the truth to it or if it's still true, that we, as far as what capabilities we have as humans, we only really average on like 10%. We're not even at half. There's a lot more we can do, and the abilities, maybe they were operating on a higher percentage of what they can do. So that's why they were able. But as things turn, you go back 30, 40 years ago, the life expectancy was lower. So people live longer now. And based on modern medicine is probably a big part, keeping people alive a lot of times. So that has something to do with it. But
and then in biblical, when they were living in the hundreds, and
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I think that that's a correlation with the fact that they were a better, more the human that they were actually using more of what they had than what we do. So we were not able to sustain ourselves as much as they are, because I think they were a better creature and a more advanced creature than we are. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But the good thing about living in the modern time is I can just get on my phone and I can figure out.
Yeah.
I can see all that prehistoric and I can see the biblical.
Right.
So where the other couldn't do the same, but. So what we got up next? Okay,
to also go with that. So if you died and hadn't given an opportunity to come back, what would you come back as? Would you come back as yourself? Would you come back as whatever? Whoever, man, animal, creature, whatever. What would you think that you would want to come back as? Or who?
Okay, if I'm up at bat first, I'm going to say that I would want to come back as me, because to me I feel like that gives me a head start. It's like I'm just picking up where I left off. Whereas but I guess really in this sense, your mind is saying that you wouldn't know what you know now. You're just starting all over from scratch or whatever. Yeah, but so I don't, it's hard to say when you've lived a life. Now, I just don't think I had a life that was so devastating that there's so many issues like, I wouldn't want to. I just think some of the things that happened to me negatively is directly from my hands. So I can't. It's like, okay, I could have done this, could have done this. I had those opportunities. So I was never in a place where I was like, man, you know. So I would just still would want to come back as me, even though I think other people have other things that like I said, I would love to be able to do this and that other, but I still think that I could achieve those things just the same.
All right.
So.
Okay, I get you on that. Mine, I'm assuming, and I don't know, and I've just because I've had dreams before, and of flying, and I think I would want to come back as a bird so I can soar the world. You know, I don't. I'm not dead set on that, but that's how I think I would come back as a bird. I don't know if it sounds crazy, but you know, but
I guess if you want that moment, I could see that you want that moment of flying, that freedom or whatever. But I guess if you go back and you say, if a bird had all luck on their side, how long do they actually live? Then on top of it, you got other things that's happening where you flying. There's airplanes. There's other birds.
I get that. I've thought
I just
about
think that
that.
the life expectancy is real low on a bird. I don't know.
I don't know what the life expectancy is. I have no clue. It just popped in my head because I thought about dreams that of flying, and I had the freedom that was in the dream, and it just, you know. So now, I don't know.
If you had the power to dream like you wanted to dream, and you like that, and you had the power to say, okay, every Friday night I'm gonna dream about flying, would that satisfy that, or you still would want to be the bird?
Maybe it might.
Yeah. See.
You know. So I don't know if that, like I said, that's not set in stone in my mind. That's the only thing I could think of.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Because I mean, I think we as humans, we treat each other different than any other creature. And it's kind of different. You know, we're the ones that's always attacking one another. I don't know. Maybe maybe a bird attack each other. I don't know. You know, well, of course, dogs, you know, but they, you know, an animal or, well, I can say creature, but an animal just seems like they... I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't really know.
I think it's easy.
I haven't got a clue what I want to come back as.
I mean, I just think that when it comes to animals, you're right. I think they do ride in packs. Like if you get a bunch of dogs, that different breeds of dogs, they may go against each other. It just seems like if there's other dogs and a bunch of dogs of different breeds, and there's a bunch of humans, a bunch of cats, then they become as a group. But I just think the reason why is they're just limited in the things they do. I just think it's really so limited in what animals do from day to day. So they just run in packs, and it's all about the next day to the next day.
But they're limited based on what?
I'm just saying the fact.
You're talking
a
about
dog. You can tell a person that says that my dog had a beautiful life. He lived for 10 years, let's say, and he had a wonderful life. And basically, most of the time, 95% of the time, he was in the house, or you walked him to take a dump or whatever, and bring him back home. That's his life.
Yeah, but it wasn't freedom for that dog.
I understand, but I'm saying it's so limited that it's easy for them not to really get into all this cat fighting or whatever we do, because we have so many different things. When you go and think about the things you have issue with, like road rage, is because you had the ability or the freedom to drive and other things. There's so many things we do, but so many things that we do that
we do.
there's so many things that we do that it allows many opportunities that we can get ourselves in, where there's that confrontation with one another. So I think animals don't have that. It's just the day-to-day kind of creatures. How we probably were in the beginning, we probably had like cavemen, if you want to say. I'm sure they didn't have any problems as we do, because it was so limited in what they did do. But no, that's just what I feel. But I mean, y'all let us know what y'all think about that. These are just some of these e-shine type of topics we want to get into, to let you know how we feel about things, and y'all can let us know how you feel about these particular things. But before we go and before we leave, do me a favor, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, also share, comment below, and I do believe that's it.
That is it. Thanks for listening to Sunshine and E.